Hello everyone, welcome to the MudRoom, our weekly free and live uncommon sense parenting class. How is everyone today? Welcome to February. I really dislike January, so I'm not sad to see it go. I don't know, it just always feels like this odd time where everything is just kind of in limbo. Although I guess we've been into February for a week now. I guess last week was technically the first MudRoom of February. Oh well. So yeah, 2 weeks of virtual schooling. I've lost track of time. Yay, February! In that vein, today we're going to chat about the effect the pandemic has had on our 4-year-olds. Our limbic leaping kids. This is coming up a lot in parentability. It's come up in the posse. So it's time to have a chat about what I'm observing and how this may be influencing your kids. Before we get into that though, allow me to introduce myself for those of you who are new around here. Welcome, my name is Allana Robinson. I'm a parenting coach for parents of children 2 to 6 years old, and I help you understand why your children are misbehaving and how to fix it without yelling, shaming, or timeouts. I'm your host here on the MudRoom. I'm also the host of the Parenting Posse Facebook group, and I'm the creator of the Predictability program where I help you raise well-behaved kids of your own. Since you're here, if you do me the honor of liking and subscribing, that would make my day. Also, if you're listening to this as a podcast, I would greatly appreciate it if you'd take the time to rate the podcast and leave a review wherever it is that you're listening to it. Alrighty, so for those of you who are new, if you haven't listened to the episode on the limbic leap, I really recommend you go check that out afterwards because everything will make far more sense once you do. But the Coles notes is that 4-year-olds are going through a massive brain growth spurt, particularly in their limbic system, their amygdala to be specific. And the amygdala is the area of the brain that keeps us safe. It's our security system. It's going through a recalibration. What served to keep us safe as infants and toddlers is no longer going to keep us safe as children, and thus it needs to get bigger and stronger and more adept at recognizing danger. All that to say, it's very sensitive. So it's often alerting to danger that doesn't exist. It's perceiving danger where there is none, which is why our 4-year-olds are generally super emotional and irrational. Now, just like any other growth spurt, it's a bit of an energy drain. Not just because growing takes energy, but also because their security system is on high alert, so they're expending a lot of energy being hyper-vigilant. You know how after you watch a thriller movie, you're like exhausted? Because you were on high alert for the last 2 hours for every creak and crack and movement, right? Well, same thing here, only they perceive their life to be like a thriller with unexpected and dangerous things around every single corner. And what do we call energy expenditure? Stress. Stress is energy expenditure. Again, if this is news to you, we have a whole episode explaining stress. So we've got these kids who are going through this developmental stage that is very stressful, who are, by design, alerting to anything new or unexpected as danger, and then a pandemic hit. And I think we can all relate to the pandemic exhaustion, the hyper-vigilance we've had to sustain for the last coming on 3 years now. Not only that, everyone around us is hyper-vigilant too. We're all on high alert for danger that exists, but that we can't see or touch. There's nothing that we can point to and go like, that thing is the danger. It's not like we can show them a hot stove and be like, this will hurt you. Or point to a steep cliff and be like, if you fall off of that, you're gonna die. We can't see COVID. We can't touch it. There's nothing we can put a pin in and say, this is the dangerous thing for them. Which, as you can imagine, is very scary for a child that is already alerting to perceived dangers that don't exist. This is one of those times where our biology is working against us a bit. we're supposed to be able to reference the people around us to see if they feel safe too, and if not, increase our arousal to keep ourselves safe. Like, think of it in terms of cavemen. If someone noticed a lion, we needed to notice them noticing the lion, and our kids to notice us noticing the lion. And all that had to happen without a word to keep us safe. But there's nothing concrete like a lion here. It's invisible and it's everywhere. So they aren't able to relax and calm down, which means they're expending a lot of energy on being even more highly alert. Using my gas tank analogy, let's say for the sake of simplicity of argument that we typically have a full gas tank. Like non-pandemic times, everyone's walking around with a nice full tank. And for a typical child, the limbic leap is sucking like, let's say, half of that energy during their 4th year. And then add on that pandemic stress, and let's say that's taking another quarter tank. That means that our 4-year-olds have been walking around doing life on a quarter tank this entire time, at best. They don't have the resources that they would typically have to deal with life or this cognitive leap that they're going through. And when kids run out of energy, that's when those big behavior events occur. So here's what I'm noticing with my own kiddo who turned 4 in June 2020, and with my clients who have 4-year-olds at various points in their 4th year throughout the last 2 years. First, I'm noticing that the limbic leap is lasting a little bit longer. It's taking longer for our 4-year-olds to chill out. My theory on why this is due to something called canalization, or entrenchment is another word that's often used. Basically habit. Our kids who have gone through the limbic leap during the pandemic are not habituated to calming down and feeling safe, more so than children who went through it before. And that increased amount of time being hyper-vigilant seems to have canalized them into it. They're not used to feeling safe, and to be fair, the danger is still present. So it seems to be taking longer for them to chill out afterwards. I'm noticing a really stark difference between my own 2 children. My oldest was totally done with his limbic leap around 5. We had a few aftershocks, which is typical, but nothing major. My youngest, however, is 5.5 and still exhibiting limbic leap behaviors about a quarter of the time. So what to do about this? We just have to keep treating it like the limbic leap, right? We have to keep focusing on that predictability and consistency to help increase their feeling of safety. The more consistent and predictable you are, the less danger they will perceive. Doesn't mean it's going to shorten it, unfortunately. It just means that it'll help manage it while it lasts and hopefully make it easier for them to come out of that entrenchment of being hypervigilant. Second, I'm noticing that their perspective taking has suffered. Generally, during the 4th year is when children start to understand that the people around them see things differently than they do, both literally and figuratively. Well, the lack of socialization over the last 2 years reduced the amount of exposure they got to various perspectives, and thus, they have had less time to practice it. So I'm noticing that kiddos who went through the limbic leap in the last 2.5-ish years are having a harder time socially simply because that development got pushed down the road a bit. So now they're contending with their typical 5-year-old development, and they're learning that perspective-taking development as well. The only thing we can really do about this is to continue facilitating their social exchanges when possible. There's going to be more conflicts. Like, keep walking them through conflict resolution. There's going to be more egocentrism later than we would typically see. They're just generally presenting younger social skills than we'd typically see. But they're all in the same boat. So this is mostly about adjusting our expectations versus any specific intervention that they need. So yeah, I wish I had better news. But I do find that understanding what's going on is helpful. It makes us more empathetic. It makes it easier to understand what's going on with them and plan around it. If you need to talk it out, brainstorm some ways to cope for you or for your kiddo, come and join us in the Parenting Posse. We'd love to help you figure it out, and the link is in the description. Okay? So I hope that explains a little bit of what you may be seeing at home. I know a lot of parents in Parentability have been kind of freaking out about this because, with their older kids, there was a very steep drop off in these behaviors around 5, and their current 4-year-olds don't seem to be coming out of it as quickly. And I noticed it with my own too, as I said. He's just taking a longer time to come out of this leap, and it makes total sense to me. I don't think there's going to be any long-term issues. I think we just have to be a little bit more patient and rally around our kids right now and give them the support that they need to kind of get over this hump. And hopefully, as the pandemic eases, whenever that will be, we'll be able to kind of get them out of those canals, get them out of those trenches, and really help them feel safe and secure. All right, have a great week, and I will see you next time for another Uncommon Sense parenting class. Bye.